so far this season, Johnny Manziel's had all of 4 offensive snaps. Are you okay with how the Browns are using Johnny football?
First, let me say this. That play was sweet, and the name is even sweeter. But, yeah, I'm okay with it. I think it's perfectly fine. You know, one, let's give credit to Hoyer. He's playing tremendous, 19 for 25. You know, I don't think, even though he claimed it at the beginning of the season and the team claimed it and he went out there and showed everybody why he should be the starting quarterback, I'm not sure if everybody expected him to play as well as he's been playing. No. And I like to give him credit. I said that he's a good quarterback. He's playing great right now.
He is.
That's the reason why you can't put Johnny in and have him dropping back 10 to 15 times a game, and I'm okay with how they're using him. It's special packages, trick plays, maybe it's the read option. Whatever it is, just throw him out there. Because it's not because you're saying Hoyer's not playing well. It's because you want people to have to defend that or at least game plan themselves during the week because maybe Johnny's going to get in the game. One thing he does have is moxie, speed, and he's talented. So you can't leave a guy like that on the sideline. So I'm okay with it.
Stephen A.
You actually can leave him on the sideline because he's a quarterback, but he's not good enough to be the starting quarterback because Brian Hoyer is the quarterback. So you actually can. I'm going to roll with Skip on this. We discussed this yesterday. I thought the play was relatively Bush League. To me, it's the equivalent of stepping in a boxing ring and sucker punching somebody. I understand that these things could happen, but at the same time, you know, man up, be straight up, go out there and compete. And Johnny Football, we know, is a competitor. But at the same time, he's a quarterback, and he's somebody that is by and large perceived as being the future of this franchise. And when I look at it from that perspective, Nate, you know, you talk about trick plays or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, line him up as a wide receiver, put him in the slot, do something like that. No, you wouldn't do that. You know why you wouldn't do that? Because the likelihood is that you're going to need him to be the quarterback you need him to be for the future moving forward. Hoyer is balling. We appreciate what he's doing. He's a homegrown product. He's completing 64% of his passes. I think that he's been relatively impressive, eliminating the first half of the season opener against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I definitely think Hoyer is showing a lot of promise, and I'm proud of the job that he's doing. But at the same time, I don't see anybody designating him as the quarterback of the future. They've said that that's about Johnny Manziel. And if that's the case, you don't put him in those kind of positions. That's just my opinion about it.
I am with you, which brings me to I have 2 bones to pick with our friend Nate here. First of all, you're okay with the way Johnny's being used, and I'm not. And I said this yesterday. It's beneath this kid's dignity, to me, to become a circus act, a sideshow with the Cleveland Browns. He is a quarterback. I think he's going to be a starting quarterback, and I think he has a chance to be a star quarterback in this league at some point. God bless Brian Hoyer. He is playing at a high level, a shockingly high level, and I'm backing off of that now. I got to say, go, Brian, go. But this is what drives me nuts and makes me sick. The only way that the Browns are figuring to get Johnny in the game, except for this trick play, is to run the read option. My point that I've made on the show is, for those who didn't watch Johnny Manziel in college, he never ran the read option at Texas A&M. I mean, never ran the read option. And all of a sudden, he not only has to learn a new pro offense, he has to learn a new sideshow offense, which is the read option. Now, remember, for those who don't get this, Tim Tebow was nothing but read option at Florida. That's all he did. That's the only way Tim Tebow could survive at the NFL level, is to put him in the shotgun and run the read option where he's ride and decide with Willis McGahee every play. He can either step back and throw it because the defense is a little off balance, or Tim Tebow could pull it back and run off tackle and maybe run over somebody. But Johnny Manziel never did that in college. He dropped back, and if he didn't see what he liked, he might spin out of the pocket to create more time to throw, or he might take off and run. Now, occasionally they would call a quarterback draw so he could just bolt up the middle. But in this case, it's driving me nuts that to set up this trick play, he had to go in and run a read option. And I think every time they've run it, it gets blown up because it's not Johnny's cup of tea, man. It's not what he does.
Well, let me respond first to Stephen A.
Okay.
You mentioned Bush League or Sandlot, I think it was. You know, and I know Andy Dalton is a starting quarterback, but that is a trick play, and it worked tremendously. I think that was very impressive what Cincinnati did. So sometimes trick plays in this league are necessary. I'm not saying you have to throw Johnny in every time you want to throw a trick play, but my question is to everybody who's wondering why he's not playing more or he should be on the sideline more is if you have a talented individual, I don't care what position he's at, you have to put him on the game. I don't care if he's your starting quarterback or second-string quarterback or third-string quarterback. If there's a talented guy, we asked the question earlier, Vic should have gotten the game. And we know how talented Vic is. I'm not saying Johnny is Vic. I'm just saying if somebody's on the sideline that's talented, figure out a way to get him in the game. And now let me talk about me being with Johnny and seeing Johnny.
No. Hold on.
Okay,
hold on.
all right, go ahead.
You
go ahead and respond, and I'll respond again. Go ahead.
One point at a time. I'm sorry. Does everyone on a football team who is talented get to play?
Nah, this ain't Little League. I feel you.
Exactly. So the point that I'm trying to make to you, don't give me that stuff about Johnny football being talented. There's a whole bunch of people in the NFL that are talented that are riding the bench. You know why? Because somebody ahead of them is more talented.
Right.
That's the reality. If that talented, then he'd be in the game.
But we've already addressed the fact that Hoyer is playing well. We don't need to replace Hoyer, and we don't need to make Hoyer seem like he's not doing his job, because that's what's going to happen if you get Johnny in there for too many snaps. Because that's a message you're sending not only to Hoyer, but everybody watching the Cleveland Browns. But let me go back to what the time I spent with the Cleveland Browns and me watching Johnny. And I'm just an observer. I talked to him a few times, but I like to watch more than I talk, and I like to listen. And what I noticed is this kid wants to play. I'm not going to call him a kid. This man wants to play. And he wants to be a star in this league. And that's something I can appreciate. So if you got a guy like that who's yearning to get on the field, Kyle Shanahan, who I can appreciate as an offensive coordinator because he coaches at a very high standard, he's going to figure out a way to get him involved in the game. And a lot of times, like I said, this could be just strategic. This could be them doing it at the beginning of the game, the first 4 games, and then them not using them for the middle of the season.